You really think a second insurrection ain't possible?
Stephen A. Smith just delivered one of his most urgent warnings about potential civil unrest in America. And frankly, he's not wrong. We're talking about TSA workers missing 3 months of pay while billions flow to foreign wars. This isn't political theater. This is about basic human desperation. Let's break this down.
I want to let y'all know that I've always thought that January 6th was an insurrection. I'm not a Republican, I'm not MAGA, and I damn sure ain't a progressive leftist either. But I know an insurrection when I see one.
This establishes crucial credibility. As someone who calls balls and strikes, regardless of party, this warning carries serious weight. When independent voices sound alarms about institutional breakdown, history shows we should listen, especially when backed by concrete evidence of government dysfunction.
And when you're storming our nation's capital, you're bulldozing through barricades, you're ignoring instructions from law enforcement officials, and you're causing chaos and bodily harm while invading the offices of elected officials, defecating in their offices, and doing the kind of things that can only be described as lawlessness and engaging in that kind of mayhem. That's an insurrection.
The key distinction here is motivation. January 6th was driven by political ideology, but economic desperation creates a different, more dangerous dynamic. When people can't feed their families, social contracts break down fast. The French Revolution started with bread riots, not political manifestos.
TSA is not funded. Call-outs have proliferated. Walkouts have taken place. Flip-outs and the like. Meanwhile, we're sending soldiers to the Middle East for a war that most people don't believe should ever be a war, and we should be in. I'll get to that in a second.
The timeline matters here. This DHS shutdown has dragged on since February 14th, 2026. Meanwhile, Operation Epic Fury burns through $2 billion daily. The math is staggering. We're funding foreign conflicts while our own airport security goes without paychecks. That's not sustainable.
Via TSA's own testimony on Capitol Hill this week, they said employees have already worked 87 days without pay in fiscal year 2026. 87 days, ladies and gentlemen, is nearly 3 months without pay. How many of you can afford to pay your bills if you go without a check for 3 months?
87 days equals roughly $8,700 per worker in lost wages at TSA's average salary. These aren't highly paid executives. These are working class Americans protecting our airports, making essential workers labor without pay while funding overseas operations is morally indefensible.
People are sleeping in their cars, selling their blood. What is it, through blood plasma they're talking about? Getting second jobs. And why, ladies and gentlemen? 87 days without pay in fiscal year 2026.
Blood plasma sells for about $50 per donation. Think about that. Federal employees protecting our airports are literally selling their blood to survive while politicians debate. This level of desperation historically precedes social upheaval. The warning signs couldn't be clearer.
By this Friday, March 27th, folks will have missed pay totaling $1 billion. $1 billion. While the president and his family have pocketed a minimum of $1.5 billion for themselves.
$1 billion in lost worker wages versus $1.5 billion in Trump family profits. The optics alone are explosive. Throughout history, extreme wealth inequality during times of worker hardship has triggered massive social unrest. The French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, same pattern.
And I'm here to tell you right now, if my ass was broke and I couldn't pay some bills and I didn't have food on my table, I might rob your ass. Desperate times, desperate measures.
He's describing basic human psychology under extreme duress, not advocating violence. Maslow's hierarchy shows that when survival needs aren't met, social order breaks down. The 1992 LA riots, the 2011 London riots, all started with economic desperation, not political ideology.
They're Republicans. And they said, we think we have a deal that we can make to open the Department of Homeland Security again. ICE is still funded through 2029. We could come with some reconciliation bill on the back end to address the concerns about ICE, but for right now, just to get these people getting a check again and to get folks back to work and to make sure there's not a dissipation of bodies at the airport as TSA workers to keep folks safe. We think we got a bill. And what does the president say? I ain't doing a damn thing unless the Democrats approve the SAVE Act, which don't have anything to do with the Department of Homeland Security funding.
This perfectly illustrates the problem. Republicans offered a clean solution to get TSA workers paid, but Trump rejected it to push unrelated voter legislation. He's literally using desperate federal workers as bargaining chips for his personal political agenda. That's unconscionable.
This man is addicted. Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. Proposed U.S. law focused on tightening voter registration rules. That's what he focused on. That's what he's determined to fix. That's what he's determined, rather, to push through. Because in his mind, that will validate his proclamations that he was robbed of an election in 2020. And once again, he's right.
The obsession with relitigating 2020 while ignoring current American suffering perfectly captures Trump's priorities. He's more concerned with personal vindication than public service. Meanwhile, TSA workers are selling blood plasma. The disconnect is staggering and morally reprehensible.
Far be it for him to pay attention to the fact that he's back in office now. Legitimately so, 77 million plus people voted for him. He still wants to look in the rearview mirror.
Exactly right. Trump already got his vindication with 77 million votes in 2024. He won decisively, but instead of governing, he's still fighting old battles while current Americans suffer. Leadership means looking forward, not backward. This is governing malpractice.
Cost of the war, $800 million to $2 billion for Operation Epic Fury per day. And our deficit is over $39 trillion.
The numbers are staggering. Up to $2 billion daily for Middle East operations while claiming we can't fund domestic security. Our deficit hit $39 trillion, yet we're prioritizing foreign conflicts over American workers. This fiscal insanity validates every point about misplaced priorities.
If you're spending $2 billion a day, what's wrong with making a deal that ensures that $1 billion isn't lost over the last 40 plus days for TSA? You know you can fund it. You know you can do what's necessary. You're just using the issue to get other things that you want that have nothing to do with them as American citizens.
The logic is ironclad. If you can spend $2 billion daily on foreign wars, you can absolutely fund TSA workers $1 billion in back pay. The refusal proves this isn't about money. It's about using desperate Americans as political leverage. That's exactly what authoritarians do.
But if folks roll up on Capitol Hill in unpleasant fashion in the near future, don't say I didn't warn you and tell you why.
This is a historical warning, not incitement. Social scientists have documented this pattern repeatedly. When governments ignore citizen needs while enriching elites, civil unrest follows. The Arab Spring, countless revolutions started exactly this way. The pattern recognition here is spot on.
They would be doing it because they don't believe you give a shit about the American citizen. And you wouldn't even be in a position to tell them they're lying with what you're subjecting the American people to.
The evidence presented makes any moral defense impossible. How do you tell desperate workers you care while spending billions overseas and pocketing millions personally? The hypocrisy is so blatant that even staunch defenders would struggle to justify this level of callous indifference.
And no matter how bad the Democrats and the Republicans are, nobody at this moment in time is worse than President Trump, the deal maker in decline.
Coming from his independent perspective, this judgment carries serious weight. Dealmaker in decline perfectly captures someone who promised deals but delivers dysfunction. The man who wrote Art of the Deal can't even make a simple agreement to pay federal workers.
Ukraine, Russia, resolved in one day, huh? Israel, Iran, wouldn't be no war with me, huh? We ain't trying to engage in warfare in the Middle East. No new wars, huh? The deficit, got to trim that down, huh? You closed the borders.
Every single campaign promise broken. Ukraine war expanded. Middle East conflicts multiplied. Deficit exploded. Borders still chaotic. The America First candidate is putting foreign wars ahead of American workers. The campaign rhetoric versus governing reality couldn't be more stark.
Where's these trillions of dollars that was supposed to come pouring into the United States of America? And if it was going to be the trillions of dollars pouring into the United States of America, why would this deal be such a big deal if we got those kind of dollars coming in? Because your ass was lying.
This is brilliant logic. If those promised trillions were real, paying TSA workers would be pocket change. The fact that $1 billion in worker wages is treated as impossible, while $2 billion daily for wars is automatic, proves those economic promises were complete fabrications.